All right, all right. All right, all right, all right. All right, all right, all right. Okay, sir. We're gonna jump. I appreciate the opportunity. I enjoyed watching your. I believe it's probably your last interview.
Yeah.
What was the name of that podcast?
They're called they're like the RDA Live podcast.
Okay. Was it like 804 something?
Yeah, 804
Kind of
podcast.
shout them up, but I just couldn't remember what the name of the podcast was. Yeah, that was an interesting interview, and I can recall hearing one of the parts that my door is open. Let me close this door real quick. And I can recall saying in one part of the interview, we won't get into it right now, we'll get into it later on, but there was a part where the discussion turned into the area of community. And there was a lot of things I heard coming from this young man. I said, you know what, I would love to sit down with him. So shout out to them, because that's kind of how I came across you. I have no clue how I even came across their podcast, actually. For some reason, this door just keeps opening. We still got 5 more minutes, so we good. So it keeps opening like this. Okay, apologize for that. It's kind of weird, keep popping open. Yeah, so shout out to that podcast. They're in Richmond, correct?
Yeah, they're in Richmond. They're downtown.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Richmond, but I've had a few guests that were actually from that Richmond area. So I feel like that was kind of perfect. So we're going to jump into it a little slow, if that's okay. I know we got a few more minutes before people expect us to go live, but just introduce yourself if you wouldn't mind. Just introduce your name, where you were born and raised, your family dynamic, whether you have siblings, children, things of that nature.
Okay. Hello, how y'all doing? My name is Darren Moden. I'm born and raised in Southside, Richmond, Virginia. So I'm a Richmond native. Uh, I have two younger brothers, and I have an older sister. I have a loving mother and father. Sadly, they aren't together, but they still play a critical role in my life. Also, I do not have a child. I'm 24, still trying to experience life. Before I get
Life.
yeah.
Right. Open up these comments real quick. Okay, got a chat open now. Okay, so Richard, born and raised. So let's talk about your wonderful mom and dad. So you were raised in a household, both of them, I'm assuming, right?
No, they were divorced. They weren't together.
Okay. So just step us through that childhood. So was there a time where you were at home with both of them?
Yeah, I was around with like 3 to 4ish. I'm gonna be quite honest with you. I could only remember them being together in my life. That's how long ago it was. I was probably 3 or 4. So it was. I didn't really have as I say, I didn't have common sense at time. For me, like from my remembrance, they've always been separate, and I'm gonna say that from like preschool and up. Yeah, they've always been separate. But I can say my father has still been active in my life, even though my parents weren't together. That's one thing I'm real blessed and fortunate to have that, because a lot of people don't have that situation. They have a situation when the father is just completely just not in their life. So yeah, for me, my father was still in my life, even though I didn't live with him for long. I only lived with him for about 4 years of my life. He was still in my life as a younger kid. He would pick me up from school. I would stay the weekends at his house sometimes. He helped me with sports and stuff like that. So.
Okay. You say you lived with him for 4 years. And what age were you when you lived?
The high school age. So
high school age, okay.
Around 16 to 18. That's when I left. Yeah.
Okay. So do you think that was possibly something that was already pre-planned? Then when you went to high school, you would move with your dad, or?
No.
Situations that kind of happen.
Situations happen. Let's just say, let's just say I had some issues and stuff with, my mother's husband at the time,
Okay.
and it was just best for me to live with my father. Me and that guy, we just didn't really see eye to eye on a lot of things. It did sadly turn physical. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
no violence person, but it did get to that level, so that's why I had ended up going with my father. But I needed that anyway
Mm-hmm.
because it was a coming from somebody that lived in Richmond their whole entire life and going through the Richmond school system. My dad lived in Chesterfield County. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's like an outside surrounding county,
Okay.
which here we just call that suburbs. So Richmond, is Richmond the hood, and Chesterfield the suburbs. So coming from going to a school with all black people to going to a school with more white people than black people, it
Mm-hmm.
was a culture shock with me. I didn't really fit in. And when I mean fit in, I fit in, but I didn't really like I got in trouble a lot because it was certain stuff that you were able to slide through in Richmond that you really couldn't do in Chesterfield. For example, in Richmond, I remember in middle school, me and a couple other students, we would lie and get out of class, and we wouldn't be in class. We just chill in the library, and we would keep doing this. We would skip class. It just nothing really happened. Suppose when I got to Chesterfield County Schools, they took education. Hate to say this, a little more serious to the fact that for me, even skipping one class or me hanging out at lunch longer than I'm supposed to be, I was getting suspended from school for doing that. So I did learn the hard way, going from a school system with I'm not gonna say Richmond's laid back, but I'm gonna say they care a little more in the suburban area than the inner city area. They care a little more. So going from that really was a culture shock to me. But I'm happy that I was able to experience the diversity. So that's a real big plus.
And that's why you said unfortunately, because you recognize the difference in one school system being a little more stern and taking more, making you be more accountable, right, and
Yeah,
responsible, versus the other one kind of just letting you kind of do whatever whenever.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you mentioned that you had a military background. So this is dad.
Yeah. My father, he's a retired army sergeant. Also, my grandfather, he was in the Navy as well. My sister was in the military. My mother was in the military as well. My
Mm-hmm.
stepmother was in the military. My grandfather was in the military. So I come from a really heavy military family. So it was deeply like embedded in me. Now, when I was in high school, I didn't really see myself going to the military because I just didn't want to do it. Like, my generation, we're anti-military. We're not really big on that. Having somebody tell you what to do, having to wake up early, blah blah blah, do all that stuff. So I really didn't particularly want to go into the military.
Mm-hmm.
I was more put in a position in life that it was kind of. I'm not gonna say I was pressured, but I was pretty much pressured because I have a
Yeah.
military family. So it was like, yo, well, if you don't do this, then it was one of
That's what I was
those.
gonna say. It's like you don't feel like you were pressured, but there was pressure because the expectation is this is what we do in this thing,
Yeah, definitely.
right? Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Honestly, how I joined was kind of a funny story. I joined right when COVID started. So at the time, I did work at a nursing home, but I had left the nursing home because COVID was getting so bad. My mom didn't want me working in that conditions. We didn't know what was going on. So at the time, I was just couch surfing. Honestly, I was just chilling because it's quarantine, and an army recruiter had called me. To this day, I don't know how he got my number because, like I said, I really didn't want to do the military. But he had called me, and the crazy thing about it is he had called me with a Maryland number, and usually I don't answer the phone for people that numbers I don't know. But something right there just said, you know what? Let me just answer the phone. I answer it. He was like, "Staff Sergeant such and such. Uh, I see your interest. I see you took the ASVAB. I did take the ASVAB in high school, only because it's a funny story. It was senior skip day, so that's when the senior skip. But the catch about it was for you to be able to skip or go home early, you either had to take an ASVAB or you had to go on a college tour. And I didn't sign up for any college tours. So I'm like, let me take the ASVAB. Let me just go in there and just circle C for every answer so I can get out and go home early. And that's what I did.
Right.
But weirdly enough, I got a call back saying, "Oh, I see you took the ASVAB. Can you come down and maybe we can talk a little bit?" And at the time, I'm like, I'm really not doing anything. Plus, I know it's gonna, make my father proud for me to at least attempt to look like I want to go to the military. So I was like, let me go down to the station. I end up taking another test, and then I end up kept going through with it. And then I had went through like a MEPS process. So what that pretty much is, they like check your medical background. So medical
Mm-hmm.
background process. And then also that's when I was there. That's when they selected jobs. At that point, no, it's before I selected a job. At that point, I had went through all of that, and I was really like kind of like, nah, I'm not trying to do this. So I ghosted the recruiter for probably a few weeks, and
Okay.
he was mad about that. But I ghosted him until one day. I don't know why. Just one day, I was like, you know what? Just let me go back in here to see what he has to say, and let me
Mm-hmm.
just at least talk to him, because this could be a good thing for me. Because I wasn't doing anything. So I went in. We looked over jobs. The job that which is supply, which my father, my mother, and my recruiter all did.
Mm-hmm.
So they spoke highly of the job. It was open. I was like, I wouldn't mind doing that. And then yeah, I left 2 weeks later. So it was pretty fast. I didn't expect it to go that fast.
Mm-hmm.
I remember telling the recruiter, I at least want to have my summertime,
Right.
I at least want to be able to go back. So when everybody goes to college in August, September, then I'll be able to go to military. So it's like, but no, that's not what happened. I left in June. So right after I graduated high school, 2 weeks later,
Oh
I was gone.
wow.
Yeah, it happened really fast.
And so you go, you tell dad, I'm sure, and you tell mom that this is what you got a call. You met with someone. So what was their reaction to that?
I mean, of course, they were happy. Now, my mother, she always wanted more of college, but I'm in college now. But at that time, she wanted more college, and my father, of course, he wanted more military. So my mother was still happy regardless. My father, he was really happy because it's like a legacy thing. So
Mm-hmm.
he was really he was excited.
So, so beyond the excitement, was there anything mentioned like to be aware of, to be vigilant about? Like, did he give you any type of um, nuggets to go away with? Like, be mindful of this. Make sure you do this. Make sure you present yourself this way. Did you get that kind of rundown?
Actually, no, I
No.
really didn't. I didn't really learn the real ropes of the military until I got in, only because just like how society is, uh, things change over time.
Yeah.
So my parents were in the military in around early thousand, I mean the mid 90s, around that time. So that's way different from the military to
Mm-hmm.
now. When
Mm-hmm.
they were in the military, drill sergeants could actually slap them around and punch somebody. They can't do that with me; they'll get in trouble. Just for our generation, that's just how much the rules change. So it's not much they could tell me besides if you're go to sick hall, which that's a place that's pretty much a doctor. So if you're always hurt, always make sure to. Which that's a big thing. If anybody's military is watching, they already know that's a big thing. When you're in the military, and if you get hurt or it's little things, even if you get like a migraine, always document that. So when you get out the military, so for example, say in the military I break my leg or something, I get out the military and say I re-hurt that leg,
Oh,
instead of me having to like pay for that surgery, the military would cover that surgery only because that's a military recorded, like
right.
documented
Previous
injury,
age.
cause injury. So that's always a really big thing. Which that's something I learned. Like I was taught. There was this guy. His name was Sergeant Johnson, and I'm happy that when I was in the military, I was able to be under him for a little bit because his whole thing, the military was, I'm just in here to get benefits. So just I met him at the right spot. So he just pretty much taught me, oh, you need to do this X, Y, X, Y, Z to make sure you get all the benefits you can, blah, 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 because he had been in the military twice. The first time he went in and he just got out with nothing. Then he came back in and he just made it his mission. Let me get as much benefits. Let me do this, this, that. And it's just like I'm blessed enough to be under him and be at the same point, like to cross paths with him. And I just tried to mimic everything he did. So I was able to uh fortunate enough to be able to learn the ropes and stuff when it comes to military and documentation for certain things that happen. But yeah.
So help us understand. So I would assume that you're in the military, you get benefits because you're there. But apparently there's some other routes you have to take to get all the full benefits. Is that what I'm understanding?
Here's the thing with the military. You get good benefits, but I'm gonna break it down. The benefits from being active in the military, you get more benefits from having a family. I was a single soldier, meaning that I was single, I didn't have a wife, I didn't have any kids, no dependents. So the only benefits, quote unquote, I got was $4,000 worth of college assistance or a certificate assistance. That's all I got. Of course, I mean they say in the military, yeah, you get free housing, you get free food, but and free health insurance, but they don't tell you that stuff comes out your check. You don't see, you just don't see it. So you can imagine, like you can act like okay that you could say like, okay, well, it's not free, but technically it's not really free because if you read your check statement the military gives you, it's gonna say how this deducted, this deducted, this. The military deducts $400 worth of money from single soldiers like me to go to the cafeteria they had. The dining facility is called the DFAC. Wow. But the big problem with that, which this is a big argument that's been in the military for a long time, is that the dining facility is terrible. The one I went to, I got food poisoning once, mold on the bread. It was a bad place. And our argument was like, okay, you're taking $400 out of our check to go towards this, but this is garbage. We rather just use our own cash and buy groceries. So, I mean, for me, I had to, when I decided I didn't no longer want to be in the military, which honestly, that's once I swore my right hand. I was like, I'm gonna do this one contract and get out. I told myself my goal, if I don't even get the benefits, at least to save as much money as possible. So yes, I did a lot of times end up eating at those nasty facilities because that's how you pretty much save money. Like why, if half my check's already going towards it, why waste my other money to go out and eat? I mean, of course, I would eat out on Saturday or Sunday occasionally, but I mostly ate with that stuff. That was my goal. I had to save as much money as possible when I was in the military.
Right. Okay, so again, it was tradition, so it was almost like mandatory that you
yes
this. So while you're there, you don't want to be there the whole from day one, right? Regardless of the legacy and tradition, you didn't want to be there.
No.
So what did that do? Like, how'd that help your mindset being someplace you didn't want to be?
At first, it was terrible, but I started getting to the mindset that I'm only someday, I'll be out. I'm doing this for a reason. Like you have to have your why, like a why I want to do this. So it's pretty much my why. So I'm like, I'm doing this because I want to be a better place in life. I want to get free college. So that's really what kept me that's really kept me. And then when I met, like I said, Sergeant Johnson, when I met him, and he was telling me all the stuff I can do and stuff that I can get and documentation, all the stuff I can get and all the bits I get when I leave the military, that really boosted me up. Like, okay, I'm just gonna do this contract, not get in trouble. That's a big thing in the military. If you get in trouble, something called Article 15, you get kicked out, you don't get no benefits. Now you can apply to try to get those benefits, but that's hard because that got to go through a governor, a senator, all that stuff. So that was one thing, getting in trouble. A lot of people, especially Black people, a lot of us get in trouble in the military because depending on the unit you're at, which I was at an all-white male unit, they're looking for you to get in trouble. So it was hard at times. Certain things would happen. I would have to keep my composure. I would have to not want to lash out because I'm in the long run. I'm like, if I do this, all my benefits are potentially going away. So I had to really hold my tongue a lot of times or let some stuff slide, which I really wouldn't do on the outside world. But I'm like, I'm working towards his goal. So let me not mess it up just over something with emotions.
Because you said it kind of made it worse. Like, expound on that. Like, as far as you not want to be here, the mindset it will put you in. So, give me some examples of what would make the situation worse by having that mindset.
Well, in the military, I can say you're already far away from family. Well, most people are. You're from family, and you miss a lot of things. I missed a lot of family events, a lot of reunions, critical birthdays. I missed a few of my birthdays because I'm having to do a field exercise. But that's why a lot of soldiers tend to have depression. The suicide rates in the military are high, or they get higher and higher each year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. Mental and mindset was a really big thing for me. Deal with sadness. I lost a close family member while I was in the military as well. So I did deal with like points of I could say depression, but like I said, a lot of things is just a mindset switch. If you learn how to switch your mindset and to really dig deep and say, okay, why is this happening? Why I'm doing this? Uh, that's that was really critical to get me better to get me out of there.
So, when would you say was the moment you realized that that uniform didn't protect you from being black?
I can say when I my first day in the real
Mm.
army. When I say the real army, it's in the army you go through something called basic training or boot camp. You'll go through that for 10 weeks, and then after that you'll go through something called AIT, is Advanced Individual Training. So pretty much that teaches you how to do your job. And I can compare it to college, honestly. It's not like boot camp because in boot camp you don't got the phone, you can't eat whatever you want, you got it strict, you got to be at bed at a certain time. In AIT, you do have certain rules to abide. You still got to wake up early in the morning and do exercise and PT, but you get your phone. On the weekends you get to go out. You get to go anytime you want, honestly. Just during the daytime you go to class, so it's kind of like college for military. So
Mm.
those and that can range from 8 weeks to for some people to a year, depending on what your job is. So that's considered training. So like that's not really a real army. The real army is when, which honestly was scary. The real army is when there's no drill sergeant holding your hand, telling you what to do. You They drop you off and you're at a real like base, a big military base, and it's just you on your own. So I can remember when I got there on my first day. It was a Friday, and they were having a brief in the military every Friday. You're getting brief, just a safety brief, just to tell people, yo, we're still in the military. Don't do drugs. Don't do nothing crazy on the weekend. You got to report back on Monday. Just stuff like that. That's all it is. And our first sergeant, which that's the highest ranking sergeant at the company level, so in our unit at the time, he had made a comment. Uh, he had made a comment to an Asian soldier saying, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna drink some soju, which that's a Korean beverage. I'm gonna drink some soju this weekend." And he specifically said it to the Asian soldier. Now, I didn't think that. I mean, in hindsight, I'm thinking, that's just funny, just blah blah blah, just how people joke.
They just joking around.
Even though the Asian soldier did not take that so fond, he was not so fond of that comment. But uh, like I said, I worked with a woman, and she was a black woman. And at the time I met her, I was her replacement. So not to make it confusing, the way the army works is when you like get out of training for your job, they send you to where you're needed. So I was pretty much her replacement. She was getting kicked out the army, so I was her replacement. So as I get in there and she's still going through that process of getting kicked out the army, learning the stuff that happened to her, I felt that was a red flag for racism. So pretty much, I ain't gonna say her name, but pretty much what happened was she had her first offense of getting in trouble was she had pretty much had relations with a married person, which in the military, that's actually against the rules. Only because, like I said at the beginning a little earlier, that in the military, you get paid extra for being married. So if you're cheating on your spouse and they're paying you, it's like you're just using the government's money. That's the reason why. It's not really the cheating part. It's more of a you're taking the government's money. So she had got in trouble, even though she wasn't married. She still got in trouble for messing with a married person. So that was strike one for her. And then strike two, she had left. Uh, we have like a radius. We're not allowed to leave. It's 250-mile radius. You're not allowed to leave without permission of an officer. But she didn't do that, and she ended up getting caught. So with those two things happening, they were going to kick her out. They kicked her out the military, which by the way, she ended up getting no benefits. And she was a black woman. But on the other hand, there was a white woman that we have drug tests. She had failed her, and she had popped up for taking crack cocaine. So, and she got to stay in the military, and she got to get out honorably and keep her benefits. So when I first seen that, I was kind of like, that's kind of odd. Obviously, I don't like to throw off that R word. Well, at the time, I didn't like it. Nowadays, how I am now, the brain I have now, that was years ago. If I see something like that, I'm like, that's racist. But when I was younger, I was like 18. I'm like, that's already a little suspect. The dude already made a little funny joke to the Asian person, so I was like, okay. But what really said it for me is when we had a meeting. Like I said, she got in trouble. The other white girl got in trouble. So they set down all the junior enlisted. So that's like the privates and stuff. The younger rankings in the military. They sat us down and they had a meeting with us. And the same guy, the same first sergeant, he made a comment that stuck out to me. He said, "I don't know why y'all's type of soldiers tend to get in trouble a lot." And when he said y'all, he meant black. He meant the black soldiers because he was looking all at us because we were always. It was a small like there was not many black together, and he had looked at us, and that day gave it to me like, okay, this is race is going on. And even when he left, because in the army you move around so much. Even when he left, we ended up getting a new lady, which I'm gonna say she was racist. At first, I thought maybe just because she never really, you know, how you meet a white person that hasn't really grown up around black people, so they don't really understand what they're supposed to say and not. Because she had made a comment about a black soldier about her weave. She had made a specific comment. I thought it was kind of racist, but I'm like, oh, I'm letting it pass. I knew something was wrong with her when I was given a heads up by another black soldier that was a little higher up than me that Captain such and such is looking out. She's looking for you to mess up. Blah blah blah. She's gonna drug test you. She thinks you're on drugs. By the way, this was at the time where I told you I lost a close family member, so I wasn't myself. But they had drug tested me because they thought I was high or doing drugs. Whole time it was from crying and my eyes were red. So that really messed me up really bad. That made me that was crazy. And also also like I said, they do drug testing in military, which is here's how it goes. They do random drug testing once a month. And it's supposed to be 10% of the company. So we have 90 people in our company, 10%, that's around 9 of us. Randomly though. So why it'll be 3 months in a row. It's all the black people. Like I said, that's little stuff like that. It's like, yo, this place is racist. And I've talked to other soldiers about the other black soldiers about it, and they say, yeah, this is racism. And not all militaries like that, because just the unit I was in was predominantly white. But like there was a unit across the street that was all black soldiers. So it's like depending on where you go, I was just unlucky, ended up getting a male white unit, and it wasn't terrible, but I'm saying like that really shocked me that you wouldn't think that you would go through racism in the military because they're all supposed to be one fighting force. But yeah, it still happens. It's really bad.
So were you actually really surprised at something that you were hearing? There was no expectation that you would be confronted with racism?
I didn't think so. I mean, I knew there was a lot of racism that went on back then around like in the World War days. There was a lot of but that wasn't segregation. Integration became a thing. So now I wouldn't think so. Like honestly, my first time experiencing racism was when I was in the military. I didn't experience any racism at all growing up.
All right, all right. And so, were there times where you kind of felt like, I'm serving this country that doesn't really serve me, or you too young to have that mindset in those
Yeah,
moments?
I was too young. Of course, me joining the military, a lot of my friends, a lot of people told me that. Like, why would you fight for a country that doesn't care about you? I even get told that now, knowing that now I've started my Pan African stuff and stuff like that. And I tell people, yeah, I'm a military veteran. They say, oh well, why do that if you're and I just was honestly, I was just too young, honestly. I joined fresh out of high school. I was 18 years old.
Yeah.
I knew what racism was, but like I really didn't know. I didn't know about um I didn't really know about like like the white power structure, white supremacy, oppression, how that's like followed us for decades. I didn't know anything about that. I would like literally I was just a young kid, so I didn't really know.
So when did you begin to start developing that mindset? Did this start in the military? Just
Oh no.
going back to history? No, this was afterwards. Okay.
It's probably started about 2 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I know I'm fresh into it. And honestly, how I really started, it's just kind of weird. Like one day I was on YouTube and I had seen like just like a video talking about capitalism and how it affects the black community. I watched it, and since then I just kept watching more and more. And then I would watch then I got into Malcolm X because I always knew Malcolm X was growing up, of course.
Right.
But in the school system, you're not really taught about Malcolm X. You'll probably mention him when they're talking about Martin Luther King. They'll probably mention, oh, there was Malcolm X, but then they'll just like they didn't really mention him. So then I started. At first, I watched the movie. I watched this movie. Then I read the book. Then I started getting more deeper into people like W.E.B. Du Bois, and then I started learning like about like I always knew who Nat Turner was, but I didn't really know his story deeply. I started learning people about him. Uh, Started going deeper into Frederick Douglass, Carter G. Woodson, and that's really how this really started.
Mm-hmm.
It just started with a YouTube video. Like one day I saw it, I'm like, you know what? That's not right. And also started with me after I because I wasn't big. I'm not going. I wasn't big on reading when I first started, so I would watch a lot of movies. So I would say anybody that's younger that really wants to get like at least a baseline like knowledge of oppression or into the black empowerment movement stuff like that, I would just say watch a movie. Like I watched the Malcolm X movie, which is really good, really good. I watched Birth of a Nation, the 2016 version, because there is a different version.
Mm-hmm.
I watched 2016 version by Nat Turner. I watched the MLK, the Selma movie. I just watched a plethora of movies that around that time that of civil rights. So that's what really got me deep into it, and I started reading books, and I started going to a lot of events with Pan African organizations, and then I started watching other YouTubers that broke stuff down, and that's just how I got into it.
Okay. So was there a religious foundation for the family of any kind? Was your parents religious at all?
Oh yeah, I grew up, like say, in a Christian household. My she's deeply religious. She don't miss a Sunday school. She don't miss a Wednesday night church. She don't miss a revival. She don't miss a Sunday. She really don't. On the other hand, my father, he's Christian, I can say, but as he's gotten older, I feel like he's tapped more into like beliefs of like Hebrew Israelites. So he believes in God, but then once again, he's like I said, he's not gonna celebrate Christmas. He's oh, that's the white man's holiday. I'm not gonna celebrate Christmas because Jesus wasn't born this day, and Santa and the Christmas tree is pagan. So that's the stuff he believes. Compared to my mother, she still celebrates Christmas because she's been like, okay, I'm gonna still celebrate Jesus. So it's kind of same difference.
It was somewhat of a foundation, but it wasn't really too firm on you making a decision. Like you didn't choose sides. You kind of you understood both of their perspectives.
Yeah. I feel like understanding still to this day. I feel like understanding people's religious backgrounds is really good. I like to learn about religion. I'm not the type of person because we do have those type of people that have a certain religion. They're like, okay, well, you don't believe in this, then you're going to hell, or I'm not going to listen to you. That was never me. I was always like, okay, let me learn. Quick little backstory: when I was in the Army basic training, I had caught COVID, so that sidelined me for about 8 weeks. So 4 of those 8 weeks, I was pretty much in like, I mean, real, it was like a jail cell because I was quarantining, and they had me with this. They had me with this guy that was Muslim, and at the time, I'd be honest with you, my faith wasn't that strong, so I was like, just see, let me just see about the Muslim faith, and he let me read his Quran, and I read. I didn't read the whole thing. I read probably a quarter of it, and it shocked me. Honestly, it shocked me how similar sounding it is to the Bible, and it shocked me that Muslims and Christians, not all the time, but a lot of times in the world, a lot of these wars are fought over religion, and it's always between Muslim and Christians, and they have this big issue. When if you read the books, they're both really similar, and they both have Jesus in them. They both have some of the same people in it. So that really shocked me because from the outside looking in, I grew up Christian, so I'm thinking like, oh well, they probably believe in something completely wholly opposite, different, and that's really not the case. Now I didn't turn to a Muslim, but I was just fascinated with the faith and to see like what it was about. But with doing that, that made my relationship with God even closer. I, I made it even closer. So I would say that, not to go off topic a little bit, I would say what I brought up a little earlier about the people with certain religions, they shame other people. I can say, uh, like I said, not to go on a rant, I can't say that's a problem, especially in the older with the older Black community. It's called religious narcissism. They and my mom does it, and I call her on it. She'll, for example, say we had a mosque, a Black mosque or a temple, Nation of Islam temple, and say they were donating or they were taking requests for homeless families for food and bags. There are certain Christians that will say, you know what, I'm not going to donate to them because they're Muslim. I'm not going to do that. That's that's in my opinion, that's bringing back the Black community. Because at the end of the day, I feel like we should all be united with each other, no matter if you're religious or if you're gay. That's a big one. If you're gay, religious, on what your stance on, we should always have each other's back. But by me saying, you know what, I'm not going to work with you because you're Muslim or you're atheist or you're a Buddhist, is really setting us back. And that's why one of Malcolm X quotes, he says, leave your religion at the door. Because this is going to be a little controversial. I say that you're Black before anything. And a lot of Christians say, oh, well, I'm a child of God. No, you can change your religion any day. Today, I could be a Christian. Tomorrow, I could be a Buddhist. Thursday, I could be a Muslim. But I'm always going to be Black. I'm always going to be Black. I was born Black. So that's what he means by leave religion at the door, because you're Black first. You still need to support Black first, but a lot of oppression, slavery, a lot of stuff is the reason. My bad to get off topic, but that's the
No,
reason.
you're not off topic at all. No.
That's why we're in these predicaments now. And I'm gonna say this as somebody who believes in God, but religion has done a number on our people, and I hate to say it, I don't think we can recover from it. I hate to say that, but
I believe it's definitely one of the main dividing resources, what I'm gonna call it. I believe that resource of religion for us culturally is the main thing that keeps us divided. There's a plethora of other reasons, but when it comes down to our religious beliefs, we allow that to separate and divide us instantly. I can remember making a very ignorant statement as a minister, And I've been sitting here trying to figure out where I want to expose myself and say it. And so this particular time, my husband and myself were ministers, and we used to go to this particular shelter. And we went there for years, fourth Saturday of every month. And so one time the shelter double booked us with another organization. And we not to get too far into it, but we didn't just drop off bags. Like, we would just make them plates, sit down with them. Like, we really made it a real feast. Music and the whole nine. And so my husband and myself, one of the leaders, what we were doing collectively, we finally double booked, and I said the most ignorant thing ever. And it somewhat haunts me to this day. And we're like, okay, well, someone, so they was like, well, there's another organization here, and they're feeding them too. So how are we going to do this? They're open to do it with us. What do you think? I said, are they Christian? Because if they ain't Christian, why are you doing it with them? I said that, and I meant every word at that time. There was not a hesitation in my body, not a conviction in my soul. All I cared was whether they were Christian or not, to serve the less fortunate women. So I know all about that religious narcissist personality, what I like to call it, and how you can become so religious that you're not black. You know what I'm saying? That you're not sound of culture, and you're not of sound mind. You know what I'm saying? And so I totally get that. And like I said, you weren't off topic because you kind of turned right in the direction where I wanted to go. And so with all that being said, so you read the Quran, you come out of quarantine. Did reading that Quran enlighten you in a way where now you have a different approach as you're in the military? Just by the little bit of insight you gain?
Definitely, for sure.
In what way specifically, if you ain't
the Quran, from reading it, it was a really eye-opening book, only because it does teach a lot of peace. And I could say what stuck out to me with the Quran is, because in Christianity, we're taught tithes and offerings, which that's Old Testament stuff, but that's another subject to get on. But in the Quran, instead of tying the 10% every month, they say what the Quran says is to give back to the needy. So when I was reading this, it really opened my eyes, because like I said, I was at your point too. At one point, I would ignorantly think, okay, well, this person's Muslim, they must be terrorists or something. I know that sounds crazy to say that, but just from a black inner city person, that all I grew up was Christianity, the black church, that's all I knew. So, and they would say that in our Bible study. They'd be like, we don't worship no Allah, this and that. That's terrorist, blah, blah. So that's what I would think ignorantly. So that really opened my eyes up to, one, a lot of stuff that I learned growing up was lies. But two, that this book is really, it gave me peace. But like I said, once again, it made me closer with God. Only because reading it gave me closure. Now, I'm not a Muslim, but it did give me closure, and it did make me want to look more into the Bible again and start reading the Bible more. And that's
why, because I wanted to know whether it had you torn in between the two, or so enlightened that it made you want to just get more information about
it. Yeah, it just enlightened me, because I'm like, these books are kind of similar. So I just read the Quran for a little bit. So let me get back deep into reading the Bible. Let me read the Bible. And I can't say, even if I like take Christianity out of it, if you say I'm not Christian, reading the Bible, the Quran is still a good book to read, because they teach you a lot of. It has a lot of stories.
A lot of wisdom, yeah.
Or it teaches you a lot of ways of how to live in life. Like the Bible says, like, do not gorge yourself with wine or food, or gluttony. That says gluttony, but that's something that any other person to this day could live by. Because stuffing yourself, gluttony is not good for you. You can lead to health problems. You can lead to obesity. Also, of course, in the Bible, like it says, adultery is not a good thing. Cheating your spouse.
But isn't that ironic? And I hate to chime in like this. I don't mean to cut your wisdom, but But isn't that ironic? Some of and I'm not mocking. I just like it's a perfect place to insert this. It's ironic that some of the most religious people, regardless of which religion that you're subscribed to, some of the most religious people, from in my experience, don't even live according to the very scriptures that they claim they live by. Right? Statistics show that some of the most unhealthy individuals are in church when the Bible is pretty clear, with dietary and consumption and things of that nature. Um, and just as well as how some of the most gun-ho Muslims don't live by the whole idea of adultery, right? They're some of the most known unfaithful men in the practice. And again, so I'm not mocking. I'm just saying that because you mentioned there could be someone that's not Christian at all, but still live by that moral and that principle, right?
Yes.
Understanding to be more discerning of what you're putting in your body, and making sure that you're more balanced in your intake. And that person's not even considered religious, right? But one that can be considered a bona fide Christian would just overeat, overconsume, and then are faced with all manner of diseases, right? And I want to kind of dive into that a little later if we're able to. But let me ask you this before we shift. So when you mentioned earlier that you decided you no longer wanted to be in the military, right?
Yeah.
Was your contract up, or did you leave before it ended? How did it go?
My contract was up.
Okay, okay. And you just decided to no longer re-enlist. Is that how that works?
Yeah. So you'll sit down. They'll try to convince you. I don't heard when you're a few months from getting out of the military, every time they make it difficult for you to try to get out. Every time I'm trying to get, because for you to get out, you got all these papers signed by different people on base. Every time you walk in the building, it's gonna be scary on the outside world. It's homeless veterans. This and that. By the way, I've been perfectly fine, but it's just they're gonna try to do that to you, kind of to scare you into sticking the military. And that's one thing I've noticed in the military. Yes, at the end of the day, the military is a good career to have, but a lot of people stay in the military because they're scared to experience the outside world. And that's one thing I realized when I was getting out. I'm like, you're telling me this and that, but dude, you joined the military when you were 17. You're 35 now. You don't even know what a punching clock is at a job. You don't know anything, and you're just telling me this because you're scared of yourself. It's like a root insecurity in yourself. And I've been perfectly fine. Now sometimes I do wish I still stuck in the military just because it had a lot of structure to it. But besides that, I feel like I'm doing good for myself. I'm in college. I have my own place. I feel like I'm doing good for myself, and I could really I use the military as a stepping stool. But definitely for sure, a lot of people stay in the military because they're scared to experience life outside.
Of it.
They don't know what it's gonna be like. But I wasn't hearing nothing. I didn't care what anybody said. You could have told me I'll give you $5,000 bonus. I still wasn't doing it. I was like, no, I can't do it because it was like it takes a lot of toll on your mental, and I really do believe that your mental comes first before anything. So I rather, even if I'm not making that military check or not having that deployment check, that deployment money, all that money, it doesn't equate to your happiness or you how you feel. Like how you feel is gonna always be the most important, just in my opinion. So that's why I had no hesitation with leaving and getting out.
So you mentioned earlier about how so many people would suffer from depression. Did you find yourself struggling with any form of PTSD of any kind?
Uh, I always thought, like when people say that, when I first heard of PTSD, I thought because my father has it, I thought it was just like being in a war. I wasn't in a war, so I thought it was all just being in a war or being that. I didn't realize until I got older that you can have PTSD from anything. For example, before I joined the military, I got into a severe car crash. I was scared to drive. The only reason why I started driving again was because I was forced to in the military to drive cargo trucks. But before that, I didn't want to drive. I didn't want to go on the highway. And that's a form of PTSD. So I didn't realize till after I got out of the military that certain stuff like I know it's crazy. My first week out of the military, I remember one day I jumped out of bed rushing because I'm like, oh, I'm late. I'm not in the military. What am I doing? That's a form of PTSD. I didn't realize that at the time until I was actually told. I was told that. So
Mm,
yes, I do have some symptoms of PTSD from my time in the military.
okay. So did you find yourself needing some form of healing afterwards?
Uh,
Do you recall like what part of you felt you needed healing from that experience?
I can say I'm still trying to figure that out now. At this moment, the answer I would give is just a time thing, just over time. But I'm still trying to figure out that now.
Hmm.
Honestly, all seriousness.
That's the answer. It's honest though. So you haven't tried any form of therapy because you're still trying to figure out whether you think you need it, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I do. I did from the military. I did pick up. I have like some. I do have forms of anxiety, which I really didn't have anxiety. Like, of course, I had a little nervousness. I work here, we all have nervousness, but I didn't have extreme anxiety until I got into the military. So I do deal with that. At a point, I was on medication, but I really didn't like how I was reacting on medication. So what helped me for me once again was like talking to a therapist or just doing like little breathing techniques or calming down or walks. That's really helped me when it comes to the anxiety department. That is something I struggled with after the military. I still struggle with that today. Sometimes I have urgent onset just anxiety,
Mm,
but I just learned little methods. I try to stay natural, so methods naturally they don't require a type of medication in my body. That's what I try, and it helps. It really does help.
so let me ask you. So you were doing this research. You came across these YouTube videos. You started watching different movies and read books. So when did Unity Action come about?
So just growing up, like I said, I had a Christian mother, so she always believed in giving back to others. So at first, I used to just always just to give back. I used to always every time I went to the barber shop because my barber only took cash, so I would take out like $40 of cash, give him about $20, and add the rest 20, and I would just give it to a random homeless person. So after doing that for time to time, I'm like, you know what? Let me just start my own organization. Let me just start my own thing. When it came into becoming a Pan African organization, that was really that was really at the last moment because I had already made like figured out that I wanted a service organization. I already started doing stuff. I wasn't posting on Instagram yet. I was already starting doing stuff for it. But I was like, that's the same around the same time I started getting to Pan Africanism. And I'm like, besides us just doing community service, I want to get to the point that we're teaching people about unity. We teach people about the diaspora. We're teaching people. So that's when the Pan African like ties in. And I'm still working on that. As of right now, we've done mostly a lot of service based stuff. We did have like a general meeting where we're able to educate a little bit, but I want to get deeper into that,
Okay.
especially this year. And I definitely want to get a little slight off topic, but I definitely want to get more. One of our goals for this year is to get into the prison system. There's a lot of non-violent offenders in the prison for petty things, and we're like I said, we do stuff for the kids. The youth does come first. We do stuff for the youth. We do stuff for the homeless, but we're leaving the people out, the innocent people in jail. We're just leaving them out. They don't have. They're stuck. They're going through stuff. So trying to support them in a way. That's one thing I'm focusing on for the new year. That and also focusing on health. So focusing on, especially in lower income areas, focusing on getting more hygienes, also getting more feminine hygiene products for the younger teenage girls that are going through puberty, stuff like that. Those are our biggest goals. So the prison system in the health area is our biggest goals for this year.
Okay. I love all of that. I look forward to witnessing that, and I
Yes.
may have someone I can connect you with in Virginia regarding the prison. So you mentioned earlier about the Pan African aspect of unity and action. So break that down for those that might not know what Pan Africanism is.
So in simple terms, Pan Africanism is just pretty much the unity of everybody from the African diaspora. So that means Black Americans, but it also means British Black Americans, or that means Nigerians, or even though a lot of times it's hard for them to claim their real identity, but even Dominicans, a lot of people don't know that Dominican is the second largest population of Black people in the world. They're Black people. They're Africans. They just speak Spanish, but all of us being united, having unity with each other and having each other's back, because if we look at history through its time, there's been one common enemy, and that's been the powerful European countries, or in America, the powerful
white power structure.
Yeah, white power structure. That's been the one common enemy of the world. So with us having unity across diasporas, we can find a way to combat that and eventually take that down. But obviously, before we get to that point, we got to fix issues internally, which that might be the hardest part than actually combating white supremacy. That might be actually the hardest part. Is so that's why I came up with unity. We want to have unity, but we also want to put action through it, because especially the action part is important. And I tell people this all the time. You can sit on the internet and you can say, oh, blah, 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 do this and do that, blah, blah. But if you're not out in the community doing nothing, then what are you talking for? You can say all you want, but if you're not putting action behind what you're doing, you're honestly not doing anything. You're wasting your breath. So that's why I'm really
social media activists.
Yes, and I know quite a few, which I don't even entertain that stuff. But that's why I'm really important on the action part. So they're both important. That's why I got the name of Unity and Action. We want to have unity across all the diaspora, but we also want to put action behind what we do. We're not just going to get on the internet and say, oh, we're going to do this and that. We actually want to go out in the community and do that.
And so you mentioned one of the difficult parts, which I agree, is before we can deep dive and go all the way back in history, right? And educate ourselves on all these different amazing stories about our ancestors. We first got to try to get on one accord mentally as a culture, and I do believe that is very much difficult because of the religious aspect, number one, and then of course just the ignorance of us. Some of us just don't know. We just weren't raised. We just don't read, right? But then it's a thing where I want to kind of squeeze in this, the terminology. I think it was mentioned on one of your interviews, this plantation mindset, right? The Willie Lynch letter syndrome type of situation, right? And I think that sometimes I want your opinion on it, because it's something you're looking forward to doing. Like, what is your strategy to try to break through the plantation mindset of your people that you're trying to bring into, this organization, Unity and Action that you're doing? Because it's got to be a strategy. I don't think that we, and I'm just including myself, culture, I don't think we understand that. We can say it's difficult, it's no hope, but it's a strategy that has to take place, right, before there can be any building blocks. And so have you thought about a strategy? Are you working on a strategy?
I was going through like a more traditional strategy, which that's education, just educating people. But like I said, I think educational is still the best strategy, but we need to change how we do it, because like I said, my generation is not your generation. And that's why I'm happy I've gotten to this at this age, because I'm able to understand my generation.
And you can help bridge the gap.
Yeah, and really talk to them. I really help them understand. In all seriousness, even though I know Dr. Umar, a little controversial, can have some funny moments, I feel like he's been one of the leading figures to help kind of educate our generation, especially my generation, because like once I said I was looking at the YouTube videos, that's when Dr. Umar would start to appear on my feed. At first, like I mean, I would always see Dr. Umar even before I got into this, but I just thought it was just some funny guy that was just blah blah. But when I actually watched like one of his like interviews, podcasts, like one of his videos, I'm like, okay, what he's saying is actually the stuff that I kind of believe in. Like, so, but he has like kind of a comedic approach to certain stuff. So I feel like he really is
Strategy.
somebody. Yeah, I feel like,
Strategy. Yeah.
and I know a lot of the older adults, middle aged adults, they don't, because my stepbrother, he's not really a big Dr. Umar fan, uh, but I feel like for our generation, we understand that because yes, he's saying something funny, but it has true meaning. You'd be surprised how many people you'll meet on the street that is my age, and they'll be like, "Yeah, Dr. Umar, no bunny hopping, no doing this, doing that." Yeah, it's a joke, but that does have meaning between it. It has, uh, which, like I said, once again, is a little controversial. I don't really necessarily support interracial marriage, and my process on that's because that goes against the biggest thing to the black community, and that's black love. That's a black family. So if you don't have a black family, you're already like at a disadvantage. Which that goes into another thing. My bad. I'm not trying to change one subject. That goes another thing. I do, and I'm gonna say this. I say this a million times. People not gonna like this, but you can love and date whoever you want. But there's certain stuff I feel like you don't have a right to discuss when like your partner is white. And I really do feel like you can't necessarily be pro black and have a partner that isn't black. That's that's just my opinion. I believe that. And I got into some with some few people a few weeks ago, and they're like, well, oh, this and that does that, this and that does that. And I said, guess what? This and that's not pro black. Now, I mean, there's nothing wrong. Like I said, like I'm not love who you love. But personally, me, I feel like you can't speak about certain things or you can't be put on a certain platform when you're kind of doing the opposite. You're kind of like contradicting yourself.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion on that little spiel.
Well, from a historical standpoint, um, before racism was a word and a thing, right? There were tribes, right? Before integration was a word and a thing, there were tribes. And so essentially having these tribes was really just the epitome of sticking with your own. You know what I'm saying? That was the whole premise of um, keeping your people together, right? Keeping your dollar circulating, right?
Yeah.
Which at that time wasn't a dollar, but you get the point, right? It was to ultimately keep us together, not out of fear or evil intentions or any of that. That's just what it was. That's just what society was at a certain time back in um, at a certain time there was tribes, and the tribe did not make you racist. It did not make you a bigot. It did not make you any of those things. You know what I'm saying? It didn't make you
Yeah.
prejudiced. You know what I'm saying? It didn't make you any of that. That's just what you was. You were about you and your tribe, and you and your tribe mattered more to you than any other tribe. And so I think because, to me personally, I can go on a whole rant about it. The English language has a lot to do with a lot of our struggles as well because um, these words, these spells, you know what I'm saying, that we use, and they're very contradictory, they're very misleading, and quite confusing. And so when you impart all of these words that have these definitions and these terms and these slogans, it it just muddies the waters, if you will, right? Um, because for me, I don't have to denounce, and I'm not saying that against because I'm with you. I haven't disagreed with anything yet. But one doesn't have to denounce. I'm against interracial. You know what I'm saying? One doesn't have to denounce that and say it. You just be that, right? That's just who you are. But the moment you say it, now you're considered something. You know what I'm saying? Now you're a part of some. Now you're in this category. You know what I'm saying? When you say Black Power, now you're in this category. And so I say all that to say that I think that over time, and I feel like we're in a really muddy space now culturally, simply because of the English language. Simply because of the English language, that we feel inferior, right? We we feel that we have to tread this thin line. You know what I'm saying? We can't be bold about our statements and about our stance and our perspectives and our preferences without being put in a category. It's almost goes back to Pan Africanism. I'll briefly share. We actually, my husband calls Dr. Umar. I don't know. Our youngest son is 17. I guess he was 6 at the time when we first started listening to Dr. Umar. And because of coming across his videos, we snatched our kid out of school. You know what I'm saying? Because he, like you said, his strategy, that's his strategy. How he talking, the way he talking, the words he using, and because of his strategy and how he educates, we learned about the school to prison pipeline.
Yes.
They immediately pulled our son out, and we put him in a private, independent, one of the oldest African independent schools in the country. And we did that instantly, like, oh, hold on, what, huh? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it was so insightful. Of course, it caused us to dig a little deeper. But my point wasn't even that. My point was this: even gaining understanding of Pan-Africanism, people begin to think that was a religious. Oh, y'all Pan-Africans now? Oh, yeah. Oh, what y'all Muslim now? Because he wears kufis, and because, you know what I'm saying? Because I went and because of African school, it's Ujima Shule in Washington, D.C., one of the oldest African independent schools in the country. To this day, it still exists. And it had a very intense culture atmosphere. We didn't go by our government names. We had to go by an African name. We weren't allowed to go in there with makeup on as Black women. We had to come there with natural. So y'all, the Watotos could see that you're natural beauty. And so I can go on and on about how amazing the school was. But back to the language and the categories, right, and the muddy waters, it's like we were automatically put in these boxes because people didn't understand. All they knew was it was different, and it wasn't Christian. You know what I'm saying? That's all they know. That wasn't. I ain't never seen that in church. And so, and again, I overly explain this to say a lot of times that also is what keeps us ignorant. That's what keeps us from being receptive to a Dr. Umar.
Yes.
Right? What keeps us divided.
Not trying to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Just a little thing that you said. That's one thing I've been trying to teach people, or especially around my age. A lot of times when you do something different as a Black person, people think you're crazy. Today, I had somebody say I was MAGA. I'm not MAGA, only because I called out the flaws in the Democratic Party. When the Civil Rights Act got passed, that was for us to have fair treatment to vote, not to be Democrat. That's not what that was. So when I bring up those like hypocrisy and some of those contradictory stuff that the Democratic Party and some of the stuff they've done to Black people that was negative, people, oh, well, you're a MAGA. Oh, well, this is this and that's that. You're crazy. No, as soon as you're different, or as soon as you actually think, like I hate that it's like that in our community. As soon as you actually question, that's all you have to do.
Thinking question. Those are two.
As soon as you question, like, hold up, so why do we actually do this instead of just following? And that's another thing of having a plantation mindset. You're just following. You're not asking your questions. You're just doing what everybody else is doing. As soon as you think or critically think, like, yo, like why? Then you're crazy all of a sudden. Then, oh, this person, you're radical. And that's a big issue. And I've been hitting that issue too, especially at my age, because it's not a lot of people around my age that believe what I believe. So once I tell people, when I call out people and question and then bring up facts, then they're like, yeah, you might not be for us, or you're kind of crazy, or you're radical. I mean, some people do agree with me, and they come to me, not publicly though. They come to me behind closed doors, like, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, blah blah. But for the general, most people think I'm kind of around my age. Think I'm kind of radical, or think, oh, this dude's just
again. There's the category again, right?
Yeah,
it's almost like we can't. This is what's going on within our community. We're not talking about other cultures doing this to us, and I'm sure they do. But I'm talking about what's going on within our community. You know what I'm saying? We'll be the first one to throw our brother or sister in a category, and that from a positive perspective. Right, it's almost like a suspicious perspective. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then realize that is the hindrance, right? That's the hindrance. Why can't you just take what I'm saying, fact check it? Why automatically just put it in a category? Why make me out to be something I'm not? Because it's what I'm saying. Is it my boldness that now gets me, gets me in that category? You know what I'm saying? Is it my choice of words? Is it my stance? Or is it simply because I'm just a thinker and not a follower?
Yes, and that's like one of the things you brought up earlier. It's just the ignorance. It's the lack of
Yeah.
like just fact checking or just going or just thinking. Like you'd be surprised how many stuff you'll hear until you actually research and like, you know what, this is not true at all. Why did I believe that? Or I'm gonna tell you a little one that's kind of funny. Like all my life I've been taught. This is a funny one. All my life I've been taught that the little fan that you have in the bathroom.
Uh-huh.
When you take a number two, you turn that fan on. I just found out a year ago that fan is actually used to prevent mold from when you take a shower. It's supposed to help air out the. It has nothing to do with
Nothing
you
to do
using the
with
bathroom. So I'm like, wow, we learn all these things, but if you actually do the research, it's like that's actually not true. Which I'm not trying to change the subject, but that comes to another thing with. This is my favorite quotes. If they won't treat you right, they won't teach you right. We're the having black students learn from white teachers our own history. Of course, a white woman is not gonna understand or realize the effects of slavery as a little black boy is gonna do it. So of course, the way that she teaches it is gonna be a little alternate, a little like. But we don't know such a like I said. I'll be real with you. I didn't know much about Malcolm X until I actually like I said I've heard about him. If there was any conversation about Martin Luther King, we'll bring him up briefly. But I didn't know what he did, what he stood for, or nothing. All I knew was he was the aggressive black person. I hate to say that, but that's what we're taught, and that's why America pushed MLK so much. Not to disregard anything MLK did, but he was pushed more because he was the black image that America would accept. They would not accept a stern, a more action side person like
yes.
Malcolm X. Like they would not push him. So that's why doing your research is really important. Like one of the funniest things I hear all the time is if I'm trying to think of the quote.
I'm sorry, my charges.
If you don't one of the favorite funniest quotes I hear is if you don't want a black person to find something, put it in a book.
Yeah.
I know that's funny. I know it's messed up, but it's actually true. We don't the ignorance of us is gonna, and even to spin back into religion, because when the movie Sinners came out, oh my goodness, I seen people talking about don't go watch that movie. It's we've been taught from slavery that the culture that we have is considered demonic or it's evil, or it's against us. But when you do research into stuff like hoodoo and voodoo, you realize there's never no hell or heaven concept. There's never no demonic or like concept. But when you say that, then to a Christian, they're like, you're not you're practicing witchcraft. Then
exactly,
that's just ignorance. You don't do like being told that you're like. Imagine you're stripped from what you believe and told that what you believe now is demonic and not to believe in it.
Yeah.
And we sat here and ran with it. Like I said, Sinners, in my opinion, was one of the greatest black movies I done seen. It was just good. It was a black director. It was a great movie. And there's black people really get online saying, "Oh, don't go watch this movie. Don't go watch it. Don't watch it." I'm like, and that's another thing. Like that's an issue. Oh my goodness, I go on and on. That was a big example of how far back, like how Christianity has really messed with our minds and stuff. Like how it's really set black people back a lot. And like I said, when it comes to like the black church, I realized in the civil rights era, the black church did a lot for the black community. So I'm not gonna disregard all of that, but you do have to bring up the negative impacts religion has had on black people, and especially
but not only that, Christianity is not a threat to any agenda of the power structure. Pan-Africanism is, right? And so I like to live by. I was just sharing with a friend of mine the other day is that believe nothing you hear, you question everything. Because the same way you talked about that exhaust fan, that sounded like a really small thing, but that just really shows you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Yes.
Because it helps you to understand and realize that from the map being turned upside down to the the African continent being shrunk on it, like it's like everything that they have quote unquote taught us, which I would like to say brainwashed us, has been to keep us ignorant. So
Yeah.
we're not just ignorant because we're stupid people. You know what I'm saying? We're some of the wisest people. We created any and everything that is allowing the power structure even to continue. You know what I'm saying? I don't even take it that far. And
Yeah.
so we're ignorant because we were intentionally brainwashed. We were intentionally lied to. We were intentionally manipulated. You know what I'm saying? We were intentionally forced to believe so much that goes against our heritage, our spirituality. You know what I'm saying? Everything. And so when you're talking about becoming a threat, you mentioned earlier about how Dr. Umar is one of the those ones that can your generation can receive and receptive from. My generation is very receptive to him as well. Um, However, I do believe that it has possibly come to a time where we're looking for the one man, right? And I think that that's the hindrance to the process. We're looking for the one man um, to come in and save us and teach us and educate us, right? And then we'll get it, and then we'll come together. And it's like, no, learn from that man, allow that man to educate you, and then do. See, it's each one reach one. The whole idea of one man coming and lead the tribe, those days are done. Why?
Yeah.
Because they showed us what they do to that one man or that one woman, Fannie Mae, right? You know what I'm saying? They
Yeah.
already showed us. They've already, in a sense, and I hate to miss this, scared us straight. If you want to lead the pack, you just better know there's only one place you ended up in a prison. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think that it really behooves us to even look for it or expect because we know what's ultimately going to be the demise of that person. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's something that we should um, learn from. Is that at this point, that's why I love what you're doing with Unity Action. It should be each one reach one,
Yes.
and if we each are reaching one, we're doing it. It's happening. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it won't be rallying in the street. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it might not make the 4 o'clock news, but that's irrelevant. Why? Because the revolution is what? It's not televised. So I
Yes.
think that we all are expecting uh, things to evolve like they did back then. And we've seen what they've done to the Black Panther Party. So we shouldn't even expect that one organization to stand up for us. You know what I'm saying? As a whole, we've seen what happens when that one do it. And so I guess I'm saying all that to say that in spite of us having that one or two figure whose strategy seems to be working with enlightening us, we should be taking this information that we have and just sharing it with other people because that is doing the work that's required. Because now when it comes to a situation where someone comes across an action, a unity action,
Yes.
they have the insight. Now they're around like-minded people. Now, now they can let a weight off and they can be their true self. So a lot of we're living in a time, in my opinion, and we're gonna wrap it up soon. Hopefully my son will bring my charger. I think my charger's got a shortage in it. I think we're living in a time where we're overly stimulated, not just sexually. Um, uh, we're overly stimulated even with wisdom because there's an overload of information going on right now. And I think right now we're on overload. You know, you have so many people, and you mentioned it earlier, they have so much wisdom, apparently, right? You have so much insight, yet you do no work, yet you're not on the forefront. You know what I'm saying? Yet you're not within your community. And so having the insight is not enough. You know what I'm saying? Having the history is not enough. Knowing about a W.D. Du Bois, that's not enough. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, yeah, I think we're to a point where we aren't as ignorant as we were within the last century, but we're not doing enough with the insight that we've gained, right?
Yes.
It's like a bunch of wise fools is what I call it. You know, they're full of the wisdom and insight, yet they're doing nothing but rambling. Um, so I want to ask you, a few more questions, somewhat pertaining to your strategy. Um, no, let me ask you this first. So, regarding the younger and older generation, right? Um, what do you feel uh, should be the primary focus to at least cause the gap to be bridged at some point? What would you recommend? Like within your organization, how would you then, uh, the 50-year-old that wants to be a part of what you're doing, right? How do you help your members to understand and hear, regardless of how? Because okay, let me say it this way. I believe because you could just try to change this right there, this right there, without telling it if you can. Um, because of our elders' experiences, we come off as very bitter,
Yeah.
right? Well, they and angry, and I think the bitterness and anger prohibits the younger generation to receive from them. Do you agree with that? It's a presentation,
Yes.
sort of. Yeah. So, what do you think your strategy would be? Um,
That's why, like you said it's the way they present themselves. That's why I feel, in my opinion, the best way is learning how to communicate. I feel like communication is really key in certain situations. Uh, a lot of communication is, I feel like, is one of the most important things when it comes to unity. Because if every person doesn't know, then that could honestly, that could fail a mission, and that comes from life, or even that I learned that also from my military time. How important communication is when it comes to certain situations, and having unity and learning how to connect with the elders is one of them. Just communication, just uh, like you say, it could be a certain way they say some things. Also,
mhm.
understanding is one, but you can't have understanding without communication. You gotta have proper communication. In my opinion, that's the key. Teaching the youth how to communicate better is 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 the key. Is the key goal.
So, there's a breakdown in the communication on both ends.
Yes, like, that's the real. Yeah, that's the biggest issue I see.
Mm-hmm.
That can help. That can help kind of mend that bond. It's just communicating, pretty much. Hello, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Oh, I can now.
Okay. The door was open. You left it open. Something about my charger. I had my son change it and left the door open. No, no, no. It's still open. You gotta look. I'm sorry about that. So let's see. Let's see. Let's see. I think there's something wrong with that door. So let me ask you this. What word would describe how racism in the military made you feel?
Uh, that's a good question. How make this one word and make describe versus make fun of military. That's a good question. One word. I would say undermined, only because, like I said, you're doing something. You're pretty much risking your life. You're doing something only 1% of America does, and you're still not treated fairly. Like, that's very shocking, and very honestly, it's very sad.
Yeah.
That's at least the one place. Like I said, that's the one place that I would never expect racism to happen, but it happens.
So finish this sentence. One thing the military never taught you, but life did.
Oh, that's a good one as well. I think that's her time, but life did.
Take your time.
Okay, one thing life taught me too that the military never taught me was like I said, the action part. Have action to don't. This is a big thing I learned in life. You're better off doing things on your own than waiting for somebody else. Like don't rely on somebody else to get the job done, especially when you know what you're doing. Don't don't rely on somebody else. That's one thing. That's one thing big. Military is the opposite. You gotta work as a team. You gotta rely. But in life, that's the biggest thing I've learned. As soon as you rely on somebody else, even if it's family, sadly, at certain times you can get let down. So don't ever put yourself in a position that you feel like you have to rely on somebody else.
Can you describe a moment of racism that still lives in your body and not just in your memory?
Okay, that's a good one. Uh, I didn't experience this in the military, but I did experience this. Uh, I worked at a nursing home briefly before I was in the military. I did experience this. I was. This is what happened. I was getting on an elevator
Mm-hmm.
and I got on with a white family, and I could tell at first they didn't want me to get on because I could kind of see them trying to press the button to close. But the elevator door was janky, so I still got on anyway. And even though I didn't wasn't called N word or anything, I wasn't called anything. Just the way that they were clutching their purses and just looking at me, it just really made me feel uncomfortable. And that made me realize at that point that there's a lot of racism that's you don't have to necessarily have to call somebody N word to be racist. Just little stuff like that. Honestly, something to me happened to me the other day. This just happened to me the other day. I was at Target and I was going to the electronics section. You know, the electronics section is always in the back when you go to a store. And I guess I don't know. I had a hoodie and a hat on. I don't know. So I was walking to the back to the electronics section. It's just a weird coincidence that there was a group of it looked like teenage or probably like 19, 18 younger white women. They were walking and I was behind them. And it was a weird coincidence that they were going to the back, but I was also going to the back with them. So we had made a turn. And I was still behind them. So so they had purposely made a turn so they can see like if I was following or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't. Kept going straight. And I heard because I heard one of them whisper that I don't know if he's following us. I was about to get my taser and tase him, and they were giggling, and I don't know. I felt terrible because it's like I really came in here literally just I don't even know y'all. I don't care about y'all. I'm coming here to get a charger and leave. I'm in a rush. I was just coming to the back to look for something. And it's the fact that they said that thinking I was trying to harm them or threaten them or maybe thought I was trying to follow them around. It just that actually really like this literally just happened the other day too. That I could feel that even when I was in the military, I didn't go through none that racist. That kind of like made me upset. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I was telling my friends, but I'm like, damn, that's crazy. I'm just coming in here, I'm minding my business. But and it's the fact that they said that made that comment and they were giggling and laughing. It's just it's crazy to me. And that makes me and I hate to say that makes me not want to go into a lot of white dominant places because I just don't want to deal with that type of stuff. And it makes me I hate to say this, like I said, I'm not racist, but it makes me kind of build a type of a stereotype in my head of white people like, oh, they just think I'm a nigga. Oh, they just after this that like just let me just stay away from them and stuff. Like I hate to have that mindset because I know not all, I know I've met some cool white people. Not all white people are racist. I do know that, but once little stuff like that happens or little stuff happens like when I go into out in public and I'm at a predominantly white area and just the way I look and I'm getting looked at a certain type of way or they're clutching purses, that just makes me not want to interact with them at all in all seriousness.
So, so your knowledge became, finish the sentence, your knowledge became a weapon when you,
When I started doing research, that's I can say the biggest thing. or I started. Oh no, not research. When I started questioning. That's when I could say. And then the questioning led me to do the research.
Right. Okay. So finish this sentence. The moment I started researching was when.
The moment I started researching was that's a good one. Definitely when I started to, like I said, when I started to question why we're things or question why we're taught certain things and why we weren't taught certain things or the truth about certain things.
So finish this sentence. What elders don't always understand about us is.
Uh, what elders don't understand about us is that that's a good question. Is that we don't hate y'all, we don't dislike y'all. We just want y'all to understand us more, to understand us more, and to have more proficient communication.
Okay, now I'm gonna flip it. There's this sentence. What does youth don't always understand about the elders?
Okay, that's a good question. But the youth don't always understand about the elders is that half the stuff that we're going through, they went through too, or sometimes even worse. So they like to listen to them, even though because I struggled with this problem too when I was younger. Even though I may not want to listen to the elder, I end up experiencing something. I'm like, dang, maybe I really should have listened to him because I went through exactly what they were gonna say. So realizing that they've experienced sometimes even worse what you experienced. So listen to them.
Exactly. So finish this sentence. Healing will start within our community if we stopped.
Healing finish or finish our
Healing will start within our community if we stopped.
That's a good one. I would say we stop being so close minded. If we start, like I said, questioning more, being open minded, start not being judgmental, start thinking outside the box, looking outside the box.
Black unity is feared because
Because with Black unity, we could truly conquer the world.
truly. What does freedom look like to you?
That's a good question. To me, freedom looks like to me, freedom looks like uh that's a good question. That's a good question. Freedom looks like to me when it looks like to me when that's a really good question. That's really a deep question. That might be one that's what does that look like to me? For me, it looks like uh having a society where as Black people we finally have equally fair treatment. There isn't no stereotype or no notion or no reasoning for certain things happening. Freedom looks like freedom looks like you get pulled over by a police officer. You don't have to question is he gonna try to pin something on me? Is he gonna try to shoot me or not? That's truly freedom.
About that. Yeah, a few more finish the question, the sentence. The hardest thing you had to admit about your experience was.
Mm, the hardest thing I had in my experience is that just in life in general, or the
In
race?
the army, I should have said that. The hardest thing the hardest thing to admit about your experience in the army
Was that even though you could be doing something great for your country, sadly you're still just a black person. You're still just a black to anybody, to any racist white person. It doesn't matter how much you serve or what you've done.
I,
Oh, timed out. Did she time out? What's going on? So,
now, obviously, the charger didn't work. The whole thing died out. I don't know why. Maybe it's just so the power's so low that it's not charging properly. We put a brand new charger on, so I apologize. I only have like 3 more to go. We was just about to get there. So I'm gonna end like that. Okay. I'm gonna give you 2 more. Okay. I found my voice when.
I found my voice when I stopped listening to other voices. Like that's one thing I got had the fear of what other people would think or what other people were saying. And I just did it.
I am still healing from.
That's a good one. That's a good question. I can say I'm still healing from uh the certain still healing from certain things that I could say uh I'm still healing for like certain verbal threats and verbal ways of punishment and stuff like that that I got through the military. Uh, a lot of they, especially if you're the ranking you have, the lower rank you have, you're just pretty much a nobody. They treat you like you're dirt. So stuff like that.
You're still healing from that.
Yeah,
Okay, so lastly, true unity begins when we.
we listen to each other. I feel like a lot of times I see it all the time, especially on the internet. People go back and forth. Oh, it died again. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
apologies. I'm glad you helped. I said I hope you stay on because the live will continue as long as I jump back on. I think the last question was, will what was it? Unity stars when we.
Oh yeah, when we listen,
Mhm.
a lot of times we just go back and forth, but we don't sit down and just listen to what each other we fully have to say.
Mhm.
That's a big thing.
Yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate the time. Is there anything else you want to add before we go?
Everybody just follow Unity in Action on Instagram, Facebook, uh, Unity Action Org, no spaces. Just stay tuned for what we have for plan for this next new year.
It was a pleasure to have you. Excuse me. You're full of wisdom, much favor and abundance to you in everything that you do. Do not grow weary in your well doing. It's not an easy thing. I'm sure you see that by now.
Yeah.
But I believe that you're a chosen one. And I believe that you definitely are already starting to bridge the gap. I don't know how much you may have noticed that on that.
No, she died again. She died again. I'm gonna stay on. I'm gonna stay on. We had it. We had it. We had about a few seconds. We had about a few seconds. Few seconds. We had it. So I don't know if she keep this part. I don't know if she's gonna keep this part, but I think for the viewers or the people that joined, I hope that at least you got something from this. That you at least question. That's the biggest thing. Have questions. Because when you got questions, that makes you want to learn something new. When you learn something new, you learn more. You dig deeper into research. So you didn't have to agree with what me or her said, but I hope you at least have questions. Start questioning. You know, the truth of life.